Staccato is presented by Salem Cigarettes. Salem refreshes your taste. Menthol fresh, rich tobacco taste, modern filter too. That's Salem.
I was on Wall Street and on my way to see Solomon Bradshaw, the greatest living criminal lawyer. The wizard of the courtroom who had never lost a case. Bradshaw had given me a call at 3 in the morning to make sure I was there by 8. This fit his reputation, his unorthodox personality, his theatrical bravura, his screaming fits in court. His gentle manner with the press and his almost childlike enthusiasm made him one of the most colorful characters the newspapers ever described.
Come in. Sit down. My late son's letters from Korea spoke very highly of you, Mr. Staccato.
Yes, it was a privilege to know him, sir.
Thank you. You wonder why Solomon Bradshaw sent for you. Advice? His fame is for wisdom. Help? Who can help the greatest criminal lawyer in the world? A man who's never lost a case.
Yes, I've been asking myself those questions all the way over here.
Have you arrived at answers?
Not yet.
You will. Hideous, isn't it? What sort of a person would it require to thrust such a weapon 9 times into human flesh? You don't like to think of that person, I see. I'll show you something, Mr. Staccato. And when I've finished, you'll leave this room a different man than when you entered. Run! 2, let us, if you will! 3, how it tears the flesh! 4, in the muscles! Imagine the quantity of blood! 5, 6, in a gaping wound! 7, 8, 9!
Now in this time of the snow shovel and the frostbitten nose, what wouldn't you give to have just a few minutes of springtime? If you're a Salem smoker, it's no further away than your pack of Salems. For when you light a Salem and take a puff, it's springtime. Today there's even more springtime freshness in the smoke of a Salem. For Salem's special new high porosity paper, air softens every puff. Invisible porous openings in the paper breathe in just the right amount of fresh air to give you an even softer, milder, fresher smoke. A richer smoke, too. You smoke refreshed as never before because Salem's new cigarette paper discovery, air softens every puff. Menthol fresh, rich tobacco taste. Modern filter, too. That's Salem. More delightfully than ever, Salem refreshes your taste.
Do you know that I had saved over 100 defendants in the electric chair by the time I was 30? I'm not boasting.
You didn't call me here to give me a lecture on remembrances of things past.
So I didn't.
What's in the present, Mr. Bradshaw?
A drink. Come on. Come on. You know, you remind me of my son. How do you like it?
Straight. It's the only way.
Does the name Jessica Winthrop mean anything to you?
Jessica Winthrop, that's the woman who killed her husband last week, isn't it?
The woman who killed her husband.
Oh, I'm sorry. The woman who was accused of killing her husband.
It's better. Peter Winthrop was killed with one of these.
9 wounds?
Any 6 of which were capable of producing fatality. A crime of savagery. Almost maniacal, wouldn't you say?
Well, it doesn't seem to be a woman's way of committing murder.
Not a woman's way of committing murder. I have caused to be built a model of the Winthrop apartment. It's very fashionable. Mr. Winthrop was a very wealthy man.
And that's Mr. Winthrop there.
Seated at his desk in his study late at night. Now notice, the desk faces the door.
And those windows, they're behind him, hmm?
26 floors above Park Avenue.
Then the murderer came through the door.
Murderess, the prosecution would have us believe. Sit down, Mr. Staccato. Do so, do so. We're going to conduct an experiment.
Mr. Bradshaw.
Solomon.
Look, you won't get carried away with realism to prove your point, will you?
And I'm about to kill you. I have concealed on me a dagger. I've taken from a plaque at the other end of the apartment. Now relax, relax, Mr. Winthrop. My manner has disarmed you.
Relax, I don't suspect a thing.
No, you don't suspect a thing. That is until you turn your head ever so slightly and I stab you in the back! I'll spare you all 9. I see you're disturbed.
Frankly, I am.
I'm disturbed myself. The prosecution will contend that Mrs. Winthrop took the dagger and maintained her purpose of murder as she walked through every single room in this apartment.
What's so strange about that?
Well, would it have been possible that the time and effort involved to get her to her victim would have calmed her?
She might have grown more murderous with every step she took.
In that event, she would have entered the study in an absolute rage.
All right, so he would have had warning. Wasn't there any sign of a struggle?
He weighed over 200 pounds. There wasn't a paperclip out of place. It's a minor point. Child's play. Mr. Staccato, does the name Thomas Gates mean anything to you?
No.
Thomas Gates was an officer in the Second World War. He was also one of those tragic men whose deaths occurred the very day peace was declared.
That was years ago. What has it got to do with this?
Thomas Gates had a daughter.
Jessica Winthrop?
Ah, you remember. You want to hear a little commentary on our times? She was a leader of a not very popular philosophy. And after the Second World War, she endured a great deal of abuse from, shall we say, muscle-bound patriots. She was accused of all sorts of crimes, reviled as a traitor, on one occasion threatened with bodily harm, and yet at no time did she lift a finger to defend herself.
She'd turn the other cheek.
Literally. And then there were various peace organizations who attempted to use her reputation to disguise their true purpose. And unfortunately, seeing only the good in people, she made several errors in judgment.
And she was accused of something else.
One thing after another, until she married her late husband, Peter Winthrop.
Yeah, I was wondering about him. He's a socialite, a playboy. Why would he marry a pacifist?
Love, I imagine. That's the usual reason. Certainly money couldn't have been a consideration.
Certainly not.
Jessica Winthrop is a woman of uncommon grace. She's highly educated, fine features, high moral principles, and independently wealthy. We're all capable of murder, but I submit that there's a vast difference between the kinds of murder that people can and cannot commit. For instance, a button on a bomb site. It can kill thousands, but their deaths, they're remote, they're impersonal. But this!
But if she didn't kill him, who did?
That's not my concern. I'm concerned with the innocence of my client.
What does the district attorney's office have to say about this?
My friends down there are not concerned with such subtleties. They base their case on 2 facts. 1, the weapon. Her fingerprints are on it. It's only natural. It belonged to her. But 2, she will not say where she was at the time of the murder.
She won't say where she was.
Neither to me nor to them. The only thing she will say is that she's innocent.
I don't like the feel of this.
I didn't think you would.
Look, I'm not a lawyer, sir, but if you call me here for my opinion, I say let them bring her to trial. I don't know if the DA's office is keeping any secrets, but from the way you describe it, all they've got is circumstantial.
He's won an indictment. Any intelligent person knows that psychologically, this woman could never have committed this crime. You and I know she's innocent.
You said that, I didn't. Still, I will say I have a reasonable doubt.
Mr. Staccato, I don't want to snow you and I don't want to lie to you. Jessica Winthrop will be convicted and she'll be executed. And the reason? It's very simple. Public opinion. I brought you here because my late son said you were a man who believed devoutly in human values. As a man who has dedicated his life to the law and who respects and cherishes it almost as much as humanity itself, I beg of you, Mr. Staccato, since this woman is a victim, not a criminal, you must help me, you must help her. I want you to come forward and say that you were with her the night of the murder.
What?
On November 13th, you were ill at home with supposed flu.
I wouldn't know.
I'll guarantee it. In blunt language, I want you to commit perjury.
Mr. Bradshaw, if it were anyone else, I'd turn around and walk right out of this room. But I do have to respect your integrity.
I can assure you it's my only motive.
All right. Of course, I'll have to see Mrs. Winthrop before I can make any decision.
Tomorrow afternoon, 4 o'clock, Randall's Isle.
Alternate sponsor.
Why trade a headache for an upset stomach? Play safe. Take Bufferin, the only one of the 3 leading pain remedies that gives special protection against stomach upset while it relieves your pain. You see, the aspirin in these remedies is acid, chemically acetylsalicylic acid. Now add this to the acid already in your stomach and it can cause over-acidity, stomach upset. But Bufferin and only Bufferin adds to its aspirin the exclusive anti-acid dialmanate, which counteracts acid. Result, special protection against stomach upset. Something these 2 don't give you. In fact, a recent test measuring stomach distress shows Bufferin 2 times better than this combination of ingredients type, 4 times better than the leading brand of aspirin. And of course, Bufferin works twice as fast as aspirin for millions, even faster for many others. So get faster relief without stomach upset. Get Bufferin.
It was 4 o'clock the next day. By this time, the idea of perjury had disenchanted me completely. Solomon had spun his strange spell over me, and in some way he had gotten me to involve myself. I had tried calling him at his office, but no answer. At his home, and still no answer. So here I came, to at least see the woman who could make a lawyer of Bradshaw's stature risk his career for her.
You're late. John Staccato, Jessica Winthrop.
Hello, Mrs. Winthrop.
Are you one of Solomon's brilliant young assistants?
No, Jessica, he's not. He's here to help me in your case. Now listen to me, Jessica. Mr. Staccato is going to ask you some questions. And I want you to answer them. Sit down.
You're not a reporter.
No, I'm not.
I'm sorry to say reporters haven't always understood me.
Well, I'll do my very best to understand you. Does she know?
Do I know what?
Mr. Bradshaw and I are faced with a very serious legal and moral problem.
Solomon says I created an unflattering self-portrait at the hearing. He fears I'll do the same at my trial.
We're here to guard against that, Jessica.
Merely because I'm accused of murder, I'm supposed to be humble, grateful for every scrap of kindness. At the arraignment, I was expected to crawl and cringe and smile sweetly in the hopes of touching the hearts of my antagonists.
Mrs. Winthrop, you're a pacifist.
That's correct.
How long have you been one?
Since I think the beginning of memory.
May I ask why you believe in the philosophy of nonviolence? I mean, that's a proper definition for the word pacifism, isn't it?
It will do. Yes, nonviolence. Solomon probably told you it was because of my father, the seeming futility of his death. My father's death had a great deal to do with my dedication. But, to be honest, the world provides me with enough reason. Look around you. Wars heaped upon wars. People living in fear and uncertainty. The entire race plunging toward its own destruction.
You're quite right.
Then you won't object if I ask you where you were on that particular night.
Others, Jessica, need more evidence. My young friend here, you must tell him where you were and what you did that night. Jessica.
You mean you will not answer any questions relative to your whereabouts the night of the murder?
No.
Then may I ask you some other questions not relative to the murder?
Mr. Staccato, I will answer any question that does not violate the principles by which I live.
In other words, you will not answer the one question that could lead to your acquittal.
That's correct. It would be taking an action against my opponents.
And just who are your opponents?
In this case, the courts, who have already determined among themselves that I am guilty.
You mean that you actually think that the state of New York is prejudiced against you?
I do.
You are aware that you're on trial for your life.
I am.
And you're willing to die for your beliefs.
I am.
All right, I think it's pretty plain that you're an idealist. Now, can I ask you some questions about your husband?
Please, Jessica.
All right, Mr. Staccato. But I reserve the right not to answer if the question offends me.
All right, I'll try to stay within the realm of good taste. What was your husband's first name?
Peter.
How many nights a week did you eat out, and how many nights a week did you dine in?
We usually ate at home. Several nights a week, my husband dined out.
Your husband dined out?
For business reasons.
And what was his business?
He owned a sporting goods concern.
On these several nights when you dined alone, did you prepare your own meals or did you have help?
We had help. My husband was a very wealthy man.
You said you had no children.
I didn't say, but for your mental records, no. I am incapable.
That would account for her accelerated interest in pacifism.
How accelerated was your interest?
I don't understand you.
How time-consuming was it?
You might say that I had been preoccupied with it.
You say you had been preoccupied with it.
We've already established that fact.
Were you in love with your husband?
No.
Then why did you marry him?
I was let down. Tired. Bogged down with responsibilities. Saturated with meetings on the verge of collapse. I met Peter. We laughed. Peter was gay. He gave me a moment to recuperate.
And then?
Then I proceeded to live my own life.
And Peter?
My husband and I had an understanding.
And just what was your understanding?
I would go my way, he would go his.
But you continued living together.
Peter was in love with me. He wanted me around. I accommodated.
And did you accommodate in any other ways?
No, I did not.
Did Peter sympathize with your beliefs on pacifism?
Peter did not appreciate ideals.
Did he object to your having them?
He married me knowing that I was and that I could not be changed.
Did he try to change you?
Yes.
I forbid you to question this woman further. Staccato, I told you I was going to lose this case. I told you I believed this woman innocent. Jessica has a basic honesty that is reviled in our society. She speaks the truth. That very truth will kill her. One cannot expose the deepest truths to judges or juries. They will persecute. They will stand prejudice with a verdict of guilty on the grounds that this woman's character is unbecoming an American woman.
May I continue?
I'm not afraid of speaking the truth.
Did you ever have a quarrel with your husband about his attitude?
No,
You say you didn't love him, is that correct?
that's correct.
Did you hate him?
No, I simply had no respect for him.
And why did you stay?
Because he said he needed me.
How needed you? No love? No normal desires? No talk other than hello and goodbye? You weren't a wife in any way. How then did he need you?
In his peculiar way, he had a deep respect for truth and ideals. You might say he envied the naivete of belief.
Did he envy you?
In a way,
In which way?
my refusal to fight back when attacked.
Did he attack you?
Only superficially, but I understood him.
In what way or ways did he attack you?
Oh, in little subtle remarks he would make about my place in society.
Do you remember any of those remarks?
No, I do not. I mean, I can't put them into words. It was mostly in his attitude.
What was his attitude?
Hostile. Mr. Staccato, my husband was a violent man.
Violent in what way?
A sportsman, a hunter.
And you didn't approve?
Of shooting defenseless little beasts, of course I objected.
And what was his reaction?
I never mentioned it out loud.
Then how did you convey your displeasure?
By my attitude toward him.
And how did he respond to your attitude or displeasure?
He laughed. Then he would sulk. Then he would start on my ideology. Then he would shout at my stupidity.
And how did you react?
How could I react? I simply paid no attention to him.
And Peter, did he appreciate the silence?
It would throw him into a rage.
Then why didn't you leave?
I tried.
Were you in love with him?
Never!
Then why didn't you leave?
He wouldn't let me.
Certainly he didn't keep you there by physical force.
Yes.
Did he strike you? Staccato, did he strike you? Answer me, did he strike you?
Peter struck me.
I'm sorry.
Get out, Staccato.
I'm sorry. I just had to make sure. I'm sorry, Mr. Bradshaw. I just had to make sure.
Get out. She doesn't need your help.
There was nothing left to say. It was pitiful. A woman revealed right to her core, the frustrating, heartbreaking torment of a life culminating in the stabbing of her husband. And Solomon, he was defeated for the first time. Yet he might have committed perjury. For me, it was also a good lesson. Laws are made to protect the innocent and convict the guilty. We have a pretty fair system here in the United States. And from now on, I think Bradshaw and Staccato will play it absolutely straight. After all, no man should be the judge. He might be wrong.
Johnny Staccato has been brought to you by Salem Cigarettes. Menthol fresh, rich tobacco taste, modern filter too. That's Salem.
Send the truth behind the Iron Curtain. Support Radio Free Europe. Send dollars to Crusade for Freedom, care of your local postmaster.